Tonight, Prime Minister Alan Shastney announces a shift in policy on the issue of VAT. The Police Welfare Association laments the increase in homicides in 2019 compared to 2018. And the Economic Development Minister calls out the National Trust and its attorneys for impeding efforts to get projects off the ground. We have the details of these stories and more coming up.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News with Loveless and Amy Joseph.
Good night. It is Monday, the 3rd of January, 2020. Welcome to the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. We're on Flow, channel 117. The broadcast is also being simulcast on Kiss FM Radio. You can also watch on our website. It's www.caribbeanhottv.com or on our free Caribbean Hot FM mobile app. I'm Lovely St. Amy Joseph. Thank you for joining us. The reduction and eventual removal of VAT was one of the major campaign promises of the UWP administration. 3 years into the tenure of his administration, Prime Minister Alan Shastney says he is taking a different approach. He says several alternative methods are currently being explored to better deal with alleviating poverty and bringing relief to citizens. Jacques Wooding reports.
The St. Lucia Labour Party maintains that the current UWP administration is running out of time to deliver on their promise to fully eliminate value-added tax within their first 5 years in office. However, Prime Minister Alan Shastney says having revisited the scope for the VAT removal plan, his government has identified this approach as being marginally beneficial in eradicating nationwide poverty. He says as a result, the removal or decrease in VAT is no longer within the UWP's plans for developing St. Lucia's economy, and instead programs will be targeted to directly assist the less fortunate.
My government doesn't believe that reducing the VAT rate or eliminating the VAT rate on food items is going to help poor people. So we want to be able to have a program that once you are vulnerable and we identify you as such, that the state will help you in terms of education for your kids, access to health care, and also access to food. And we genuinely believe that nobody should be left behind.
Shastney says his administration intends to continue in its diligence to combat unemployment in 2020.
We've made a lot of progress in the last 4 years. I'm happy to see the unemployment rate has dropped from 25% to 17%. We're expecting that with the projects we have starting right now, that we should get that number down to at least 10%. And my goal is obviously to get to a lesser number.
He says several opportunities for economic growth will be explored in 2020 in order to allow the government to independently fund poverty eradication efforts. Hot 7 News, I am Jacques Wooding.
The crime statistics for 2019 reveal the island recorded 50 homicides versus 44 in 2018. The president of the Police Welfare Association, Travis Chico, says discussions must be forthcoming to tackle the disturbing trend.
The aim for the Royal St. Lucia Police Force in 2020 is to tackle the upward trend of homicides. The island recorded a total of 50 homicides in 2019, inclusive of 4 police killings. President of the Police Welfare Association, Travis Chico, says though the numbers don't lie, they don't truly show the bigger picture. Chico says the damning statistics omit the full report in regards to homicides prevented by the RSLPF.
Homicides will happen. We record. What we have before us for homicides is that we record what has happened, but we never record those we've solved. In fact, those we've prevented more or less. I personally believe one of the best ways to resolving some of those homicides is where we call bringing the too many small units, where we bring many units together to form one. That is something that is left for discussion. But I believe that the homicide issue in this country can be solved. It comes to law reform. It comes to us to reform some of the laws. It comes to us to, as a police force, to employ a lot more strategic moves. But definitely, it's a burden on us in terms of the numbers. It's always hard when you hear somebody has lost their life through violence. So I think it's something that we need to tackle head on coming into 2020.
Furthermore, Chico says an early start to strategizing needs to be high on the agenda for the police force. On another note, Chico then responds to suggestions made by President of the Ayanola Council for the Advancement of Rastafari, Aaron Alexander, who called for inter-regional deployment of police officers to root out corruption within the force. Though Chico was not opposed to the suggestion, he says the idea is flawed.
I don't think that would solve police corruption because persons may be corrupt from their own country and come in. What I believe is a good idea is for us to, when it pertains to the covert parts of policing, that we could really utilize the expertise of our brothers and sisters from the various parts of the region. The law makes provision for the commissioner to, he can make them police officers. That, I think, is one of the most brilliant things that can happen. We've had discussions on it at the Caribbean Federation of Police Welfare Associations, how we can utilize our brothers and sisters. That I see can work. We could also utilize some of the expertise of the men who are very trained to come to St. Lucia and use them for training in terms of, we know that we are under the lay. And Trinidad, for example, Bermuda, they have some good training programs in terms of where they train the police officers, very skilled. We could tap into those resources.
The president of the Police Welfare Association went on to address growing concerns that the wheels of justice may be moving at a snail's pace when it comes to matters concerning complaints against police.
Sometimes people really expect the wheels of justice to turn extremely quick. But sometimes if you allow, or if you've made a report for investigations, you sometimes have to wait maybe a month and a half to get some results. So it's not that you just come to report a police officer. Yeah, a police officer's knocked me. So you report him now and you expect the police commissioner to just take him and fire him. Those things don't happen. We live in a real world where you must give that officer the opportunity for him to defend himself. So I'm not saying that it cannot work until the law makes provisions for it to happen, then so be it. But the law makes provisions for the police complaints unit to interview police officers when they've reported for breaches in force discipline, or even offenses of criminal nature. So they must be investigated, and the same procedure that applies for the common man must apply for a police officer when he's reported.
Chico says the Police Welfare Association is not against external parties investigating members of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force if it remains the only way to secure the confidence of the St. Lucian public. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
The leader of the opposition, Philip J. Pierce, says the issue of crime should not be attributed to any one political party. He calls on the nation's leaders to look past their political differences in order to combat crime as a united body in 2020.
According to opposition leader Philip J. Pierre, the nation's leaders should allow the Badlil to remain the only island divide in St. Lucia. Pierre is urging both major political parties to put their differences aside and work together to combat the nation's increasing levels of crime. He says issues which directly affect health, safety, and well-being of the nation's people ought not to be politicized.
I have taken a position and I have stated publicly, any endeavor that happens, an endeavor that improves the quality of life, including causing crime to be put under control.
Pierre says arguments between parties has played no part in resolving the crime situation, and he believes that a political platform is no appropriate place to address matters of opinion or bias, as one's personal thoughts should never be used to manipulate a party's followers. Pierre envisions a year of truth, inclusion, and respectful discussions in 2020.
I hope that 2020 is a little more peaceful. I really hope that people get together a little more. There's a lot of division, a lot of strife. I really hope 2020 the country gets together and we accept diversity. Everybody cannot believe in the same thing, but we have to respect each other's opinion and allow people to make the right choice and take a decision.
He suggests that both the government and the opposition engage the private sector and other stakeholders to address the current increase in violent crimes. For Hot 7 News, I am Jacqueline.
Castries Southeast MP Guy Joseph has taken some members of the St. Lucia National Trust to task for standing in the way of development. He says it's all being done for political reasons. Joseph detailed at least 3 occasions at which government has been taken to court when attempting to get projects off the ground. Economic Development Minister Guy Joseph sat down for an in-depth interview to reflect on the year 2019 and to discuss some of the government's plans for 2020, particularly given that a general election is constitutionally due in 2021 and could very well be called in 2020. There has been criticism that by now, after 3 years in office, the government should have at least one major development project that it can point to as a major success story. Joseph responded by taking an aim at detractors who he says have impeded the efforts of the government to do just that.
The Sandals project should have been completed by now. What happened? The government was taken to court. And I will say it without fear of criticism that there are people who are geared on working against the program of development for the sake of a political party.
He says at least 3 projects are currently in limbo due to what he classifies as behind-the-scenes political maneuvering. He first pointed to the stalled Sandals property and also a matter at Sugar Beach.
That has been stalled because now that the process is over with the courts, the government won the case, but at the end of the day, we must remember one thing. Investors always watch the reaction of both the government and the opposition to determine how much risk there is in investing in a country. So the opposition has been bent on creating mischief when it comes to the development of St. Lucia. So you've had this situation. Recently we had a situation at, the old Jalousie, now Sugar Beach, where the issue of access to the beach became a point of contention.
Joseph says things are being done under the guise of advocating for the preservation of St. Lucia, but he says it's all a political ruse.
If you go back to it, you will see the same lawyers are involved in both instances. The taking the matter to court at Sandals, the stopping of the works at the police headquarters, and getting an injunction because the National Trust, same lawyer. So there's a common thread that runs through this. But I'm not going to deal with this on your show. I will deal with it in a separate place and at a different time. Because it is time that people understand that people are not foolish in this country anymore.
But he says the administration has risen to the challenges with the horse racing track.
I believe that for all that was said, the DSH project and the horse racing track is a major accomplishment and achievement during this period of time that we are talking about. Because everybody spoke about that would never happen.
This is the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Still to come, a fire guts the home of a family of 3. The mayor is not fully satisfied with the staging of ASU Square 2020. And Mia Motley takes over the chairmanship of CARICOM following the stint of Prime Minister Alan Shastney. That and more coming up.